Tile. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. It's good to have all of us on the session tonight, and I believe today promises to be insightful. Welcome, our guest. It's good to have you on the call, and I believe we'll be dishing out real value tonight. Yes, welcome, Justus Obaoye, co-founder and CEO, and welcome, Abdulazeez Ogunjobi. Welcome to the session. Yes, so to get started, I'll be reading their biography, like very short, quick, so we don't waste time on that. Justus Obaoye is a former country manager at both Nigeria. Justus holds a geology degree from the University of Ilorin. He co-founded Chris Touch Technologies, acquired by CAF 45 and Visit 45 before launching BillBoxx in 2023 to help SMEs automate billing and payment. Abdulazeez Ogunjobi is a co-founder and CEO at BillBoxx too, and is a seasoned tech entrepreneur. Abdulazeez has led multiple ventures, including Fixit 45 at BillBoxx. He drives platform development, integrating payment and financing tools for SMEs. Welcome to the session, Justus Obaoye. Welcome to the session, Abdulazeez. Please let's welcome our guest. Let me see the round of applause there. Let me see you can use the reaction buttons. Welcome to the session. Justus, confirm you on the session. Good evening, Justus. Good evening,
Yeah,
Abdulazeez.
Aderonke, can you hear me? Can everyone hear me?
Yes, I can. Yes, I can. Welcome to the session. Welcome to the session. Yes, so I've read your biography, and would you like to introduce yourself also? I'll start with Justus, then Abdulazeez.
Okay, yeah, looks like you already did through the biography. I was surprised to hear you read that biography because I didn't give a Itai anything like that. I don't know where you just got that from, but yeah. I mean, of course, there are quite a lot of facts to what you read. I'm a co-founder and the CEO at BillBoxx today. Prior to BillBoxx, I had a stint at Bolt as a country manager for Bolt business. Um, Yeah, you mentioned I actually did study geology in my first degree, started my career in the energy space. I was privileged to start my career with the foremost oil service company, where I actually did work in the software, arm of the business, where we basically were deploying software technology to optimize oil exploration. And I think that was like my first, foray into software technology or what have you, right? And at some point, I did data management, which I did for quite a while before finally, venturing into entrepreneurship, where I started out with a company that was inspired by the Uber model, where we basically were connecting car owners with automobile service providers, popularly called mechanics. That was quite successful. We got some recognition. And at some point, we represented Africa in Viva Technology in Paris as one of the sustainable, tech solution out of Africa. Got some recognition from Total, and then ultimate validation came when CAS 45 came knocking to acquire that business as a way to sort of, add it to what they were already doing. So I won't jump ahead of my time because I mean there's hardly a way I would introduce myself without touching on, how my path crossed AZ's paths. And here we are today. Yeah. Being featured as, people who could talk a bit, I mean, who could talk around the subject of finding the right co-founder. But yeah, I'll just leave it there and you probably could, go over to AZ.
Well done. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It's nice meeting you, Justus. Welcome once again to the session. Abdulazeez, how are you doing tonight? Mic check, Abdulazeez.
I'm good. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, clear, clear, very clear.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we
Okay.
can, yeah.
So I'm
Well,
good. Always. Abdulaziz is the name, easily called AZ. For me, all my life I've lived technology. I started building solutions in 2010. I've built everything there is to build. I've built for startups, I've built for multinationals, I've built for governments, I've built a lot of stuff. So I started running a venture studio, but more from a dev shop angle. So we're building products. Yes, background is information technology. I'm a techie guy, but with a very strong business acumen. So I've also gone to business schools. Due to a number of things that I wouldn't want to start listing, so I don't take so much time. But my path crossed Justus paths in 2019, 18, 19, when we actually met at an acceleration program where he came with a company, I came with another company, and trust me, we just had one conversation, and it was clear that yeah, this guy should do stuff together. So, and then ever since we've built stuff together, and we're still building. So, in a nutshell, that's easy.
Great, 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 great. Welcome to the session once again, Abdulazeez. Yes, so my first question would have been, how did you meet? How did you both meet? And what made you decide to co-found BillBoxx together? But I think you've answered the first part of that question. You mentioned that you met at an accelerator program, which is really good. People meet everywhere, you know. So I would just say the part B. What made you decide to co-found BillBoxx together? What was that thing that made you make this decision? Because of course it's a big decision. So what was that thing? I'll be starting with Abdulazeez. You can answer the question.
Okay, starting BillBoxx together is a no-brainer because we've built stuff before BillBoxx. So it started from House Touch, where we're building the Uber for mechanics, so to say. So imagine we went into an acquisition there together. We came to build Fixie 45 together. We left 50 45 together. So it's a no-brainer. It was just very clear that um, I was just the go-to person for Justus to call when he wants to build another amazing solution. So on the day he was going to share the idea, so maybe Justus like to see me as that person that can really check. So he had to prepare a full pitch deck to share with me because he knows I can actually be, I don't want to say maybe a pessimist, but I am more of the realist that is not excited about anything. I just will tell you, I first find the loopholes, just like the devil's advocate. So he shared that with me and it was just a no-brainer. Upon looking at it, the first thing I saw, I was like, oh, this is crazy. This makes sense. And I'm sure he was excited. And that's how we started BillBoxx.
Exciting. Great. Justus, do you want to like chip in something in that?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. So I think your question was really quite very much ahead of time. BillBoxx is our third startup together, right?
Great.
So, but before BillBoxx, right, we had two other startups. And like you had Ized had earlier mentioned, we met in 2019, early 2019, at an would we call that an accelerator, an incubator program? I think it's an accelerator actually, yeah. At an accelerator program called Itana. So I had applied with a startup. Ized had applied with a startup. I didn't have a CTO. Ized was the CEO and was the CEO of an edtech. I was the CEO, solo founder of an auto tech, right? And at the time, I was building my technology out of India, right? So I'd outsourced technology to India because I just didn't think we had the manpower locally to build what I'd sort of thought about, right? I mean, yeah, we were trying to build an Uber model for the automotive service space, right? So I just felt there wouldn't be anybody locally that could pull that off. And then I met AZ in this accelerator program and I saw what they had built. I almost couldn't believe it was built by them, right? And that was where I was like, okay, I must, no, I perhaps haven't been looking in the right direction. And I was super proud of what they have built. In fact, if they actually had offered to acquire me at the time, I would have joined them because the excitement was like, what? How can local guys actually pull off this? So, I mean, here was I didn't have a technical co-founder. And then, of course, AZ volunteered. Initially, started with volunteering to help look at my code base and look at my tech stack and see how it could sort of help add value to it. But for me, beyond the advisory volunteering. I was like, I see more in what we could do together, right? But of course, it was hard to sort of ask for more because yeah, he was CEO of an ed tech, had a co-founder, had a team. I think they also had traction. I think in that cohort they probably were the last business standing, even though in fact even the accelerator went down before them, right? So eventually I summoned up courage, threw it at this like, oh, would you mind being my CTO or what have you, right? And I recall about that time, the organizers of the accelerator were also trying to connect me with a CTO, right? But for some reason, I wasn't just buying it, right? And so they were at some point confused as to why would you insist on someone who was building something else, but you still wanted him as CTO. And I think one of the things I had seen in AZ at the time was he said I'd never done one thing at a time. It's so funny, right? So aside the ed tech, he still had the studio he was running, and this studio had built tons of application for government, for insurance company, for logistics. And I was like, "What? This guy is so full of so much capacity as it were, right?" And yeah, he came on board, and I think in just a few months, tweaked a lot of the tech architecture. We moved our tech solution out of India back to Nigeria, and then here comes CAS 45 knocking shortly after. We consolidated our partnership as co-founders, and here we're in the big room with CAS 45. I mean, the foremost automotive, I mean, car marketplace in Africa at the time. Um, and then, of course, yeah, eventually we took the offer to sort of be acquired by Cas 45. But here we were again, where they already had a tech team built out, and with AZ's level of competence, even myself wasn't going to recommend he just joined the team as a maybe an engineering manager. I mean, AZ was a C level grade, even though yes, we were young at the time, right? We're young in the room. It was hard. I mean, at the time, the CTO in Cas 45 was an Indian guy, had so much experience to himself, what have you. So, I mean, AZ I looked at, he was either going to be head of engineering or even the CTO, and I mean, those were occupied. So AZ was like, okay, not a problem. I'll go back to building what I do, right? I joined the Cas 45 team, built out the after sales business for Cas 45. And then here comes about, I think shortly after the pandemic, Cas 45 went through some series of acquisition, and then we had to spin off the after sales business. So after sales basically is everything regarding repairs, everything from after the car is sold, repairs, maintenance, or whatever you. So they were Cas 45 was acquired by GG at some point, no, OLX initially, and then by GG. And GG wasn't quite as interested in the after sales bits. They are classified. They just wanted to stay on the let's sell, sell, sell. They were not bothered about service. So we had to then spin off that after sales business into a standalone, which was Fixie 45. Now, by the time we spun off Fixie 45, here was I all by myself as the CEO, and I was like, there's nobody else I'll build this out with than AZ. And I went back to AZ to say, we spun off this business, we've got some funding, we have potential of raising some more capital, come be the CTO. It was a bit tough. I mean, and you would never meet AZ do. He was also building some crazy stuff at the time. His EdTech 2 was actually, I think at the time, he had over 100,000 users, if I'm not mistaken. You know, so I was like, please, I mean, I feel you are just the guy for this, right? Okay, papa. I was able to convince AZ, and then he joins our city of Fixie 45. So for a bit of context, Fixie 45, I mean, for those of you that probably were following things around the mobility space, one name that might come very popular then is Meko. There's a company called Meko. They go into YC, right? So we are the direct competitor to Meko. We didn't make as much noise. We had raised money from a launch Africa that was really quite popular at the time. Quietly, no announcements. We Meko actually came out of Move, technically, right? Those that had Move were the ones that conceived the idea of Meko. We actually kicked Meko out of Move. So at some point, we're actually the one that had the entire fleet of Move under maybe not the entire, but almost I mean a sizable fleet of Move under our care, right? And we're doing this through an asset light model. We had built a network of workshops, and then at some point as well, we enabled. We're also the ones in charge of all of go-kart bikes right? So we had a whole lot going on, but we never made a lot of noise. And then, of course, at some point, the vehicles of drivers on the platform.
How are you?
Sorry, by the way. I'm sorry. I think I
I'm all right.
got
I'm okay.
Rocket. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, all
Sorry,
right.
that was a mistake. Sorry. Please go ahead.
Yeah, so we did a whole lot at the time, right? I mean, it's an industry or a space that people would typically tell you is not sexy, but we built technology that made it really quite interesting. We built subscription in, we had recurring revenue, we did all sorts, right? Because again, we are not automotive experts. We just happen to be problem solvers, built a solution that was really very fantastic, right? And of course, yeah, and then at some point in our journey in Fixie 45, so for context, there were four co-founders in Fixie 45. It was myself, AZ, and two other expatriates, as it were, right, of Indian origin. But we were the one running the show, and they were just on the sideline. And at some point, co-founder issues came up, and AZ and I at some point then had to quit Fixie 45 prematurely, right? And it was quite a crazy moment for us. And I think it's part of what we still touch on, right? When you actually know you are building with the right co-founder. It was a turbulent time, for both of us. Went through it together, came out of it together. And, when then we had a chance to come back again, BillBoxx was born. And of course, one of the things that also gave rise to BillBoxx were some of the things we experienced together in Fixie 45 and even prior to Fixie 45. So our journey has been one that is not all smooth. It's been one that had its breaks, not breakups though. It had its break. It had its turmoil. It had its pressure. It had its testing, and we're back again. Being tested on the BillBoxx front. And I feel I said too much, but again, when it comes to talking about my journey with there, it's always a whole lot. But I think that's actually an abridged version.
Actually, that was really interesting and really good to know. Well done to you both. Yes, so I'll be going right into, because I believe most people on this session really want to know how to find the right co-founder. So let me just ask this very straight question. What do you think are the most important qualities to look for in a co-founder? Looking at skill set, is it mindset, is it values? What are the most important qualities to look for in a co-founder? And I'll be directing that question to AZ. Yeah, AZ.
Okay, so it's pretty straightforward. The way I do it is I look for complementary attributes. So there are certain things I don't like to do. When I find someone who loves to do them, it makes life very, very simple. So for example, one thing I think I can do so well, but I don't like to do is selling. I sell so well, but I don't like selling. It's crazy. So if I find anybody who can actually sell and like selling and does well at it, then it's sweet because I can mount the technical part of it. So just the fact that we are building a tech startup, you need two strong legs. You need the technical leg and you need the business leg. I like to say the technical part, again, one of the conditions in this country, I'm not home, but we just do just this. So one of the things I love to say is the technology part is the easiest part of building a business, in my own honest opinion. And that's because, again, I think I have the skills and I can actually do well at it. I can bring up a product in 4 weeks and your MVP would work and will get users and you can scale it. So I always look for someone that has that thing I don't want to do and can do it happily. Once I find it, then I'm good to go. One other thing that I factor every time is to ensure that this person, am I comfortable going on a long-term journey with the person? Because again, we're not building for 1 year or 2 years, we're building a long game. If I'm comfortable with the person long enough, and I can have the person in my face, the name of the person in my ear, like for the next 10, 20 years, then let's shoot it. So that's the two major things I consider before I go into any relationship of co-foundership.
Okay, great. Justus, would you want to chip in something on that? Just a few things on that.
Yeah, I said I think Eze touched on it quite well. So complementary skill, honestly, very important, right? There's no reason why you need two technical, in my opinion, right? Why you need two technical founders as it were, right? So Eze said it. I mean, I don't bother about technical stuff, even though to an extent I have a sense of it. And I remember when we didn't yet have a product, I used to be obsessed about the tech part of things, right? And I think one of the things is that I mean, and team had done quite well is if I can conceive it, they can always get it, achieve it on the technical front, which is always very incredible, right? Yeah, so complementary skill, and I think another is trust, right? Trust and transparency. And I understand the fact that honestly, trust sometimes is not built so quickly, right? I mean, you saw Ized and I have been together since 2019. That's quite a while. So we had actually built trust over time. I can assure you, it wasn't on this level when we first met. It wasn't on this level even some 2, 3 years ago, right? It was something that was built over time, right? And I think another thing you want to look out for whoever you want to build with is that emotional and mental resilience, right? And what do I mean by that? The startup journey is very unforgiving, right? And you don't want to go on that journey with some guy that's midway money, you guys are out of money, and is some co-founder that is looking for a shoulder to cry on. I mean, that's not going to happen, right? You both just have to keep going, right? You
Definitely.
need to understand that yes, this is not a journey that would necessarily be rosy. I mean, I see people quite excited about the announcement, when startup make announcements, wearing hoodies and all of that. But I think startup is a whole lot more than that. There's a whole lot of grinding behind, and you need someone who can actually come with you, through it all, because it's definitely not going to be it's an unforgiving journey that you definitely need that emotional and mental resilience for. And I think lastly, clarity of roles as well, right? While AZ had said about complementary skill, you then need to also define the roles very clearly. So you need to be sure, whoever you're going to be doing this with understands their role, right? AZ understands his role, I understand my role. And for that reason, we hardly have clashes when it comes to working together. You need someone who also, I mean, you need a co-founder that understands boundary, understands responsibilities, and then of course that then makes it quite complementary eventually. Yeah.
That's very clear. Thank you so much, Justus. Thank you so much. So, for those on the session, I think we've learned one or two so far on things to look out for, the most important thing when trying to get a co-founder. All right, so I'll be going to the next question for tonight. And I think you've touched on it, but I just want it to be clear. I want more clarity on that. So given your previous ventures, Chris Touch, Fix It for Five, what lessons did you carry into this co-founder relationship? What's that major lesson that you think, okay, this is a lesson for in a co-founder relationship? What's that lesson? And that lesson is something that you think everybody looking to have a co-founder should be looking at.
AZ, you want to go first?
Yeah, is it? You can
Is
just
it my network?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay. Okay. The question is, and you said what lessons did we carry from previous endeavors into BillBoxx, correct?
yeah, so I was like, given your previous ventures, right? From Carry Storage, Fix It for Five, what lessons did you
Yep.
carry into co-founder relationship generally? What lesson did you carry into it? So in giving us a lesson, that's more like advising others to also like go with this lesson.
Yeah, and Isa, before you also jump on that, hi, Justus. I want to also mention that, these two guys have like separate experience. Like Justus has always been a solo founder. Hope I'm correct. While AZ on the other side have been a founder with another partner. So we wanted to learn from you guys in terms of Justus, when you look at your previous startup life, when you were pretty much like a loner compared to now, are there like learn things. So for someone like myself who has always been like a solo founder, but now coming into this another startup space with a co-founder, what should I learn from you? The same thing with AZ. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think on that bit, right? Yes, I did solo for a while. And for me, right, and I think it differs from people to people, venture to venture, and I think also, maybe stage life stage as it were, right? As a solo founder back then, yes, it was good. But I think something I found quite limiting was how far I could have gone, right? Because I didn't necessarily have a co-founder, right? So for instance, already, like I mentioned, I was building out of India, right? Because I didn't have a CTO. Yes, I could have employed maybe an engineering manager, but I think one thing about co-founder relationship is that shared vision. Yeah, that shared vision. I mean, the guys building for me out of India necessarily didn't share my vision. They just saw it was on a transactional level, right? It was a project and that was it. But I mean, building with an AZ, for instance, there's that shared vision. We're clear as to where we're headed. We have a sense of what exit looks like. I mean, there are milestones we have, that we have in mind together to achieve and what have you, right? And I think that tends to give it some different dimension than I did see when I built alone, right? So to just see someone who actually shares in your vision. I mean, and I think one of the things that shared vision does for you is there are times, honestly, and I recall, I think this was even in Fix It 45 at the time, where I might be losing, we are beginning to want to take on things that are not really in the grand scheme of why we started. And Aza will remind me that, dude, we are beginning to try to do what wasn't what we set out for. And I think that's, that guardrail that helps you stay on course, right? Just because you have an accountability partner, so to say, that also understands. I mean, because it's a case of, and I remember as we used to joke about this, right? When things actually took a little bit of a turn, and this was how we described it even to those that were with us at the time. We set out on this journey heading to Abuja, right? And all of a sudden, some things happened, and we were going to actually change course and head to Port Harcourt. Now we are brought on board people that actually bought the idea of heading to Abuja, right? The vehicle, I mean, in fact, the destination itself eventually conditioned the vehicle, right? We knew what kind of vehicle we needed for the journey. Now, at some point, we needed to change course, and then we had to probably head to Port Harcourt. And one of the things we were clear about was the fact that, see, we set out for a journey that was, headed in this direction. And now that this course will change, I think there will be need for different drivers because we necessarily don't know the way to Port Harcourt. We actually set out for, Abuja as a tour. And it was what we joked about. And you saw some people come off the vehicle to say, no, I got on this vehicle because it was headed in the direction of Abuja. Now that he wants to head to Port Harcourt, I have to come off as well, right? So I think that shared vision helps you sort of, stay checked. And I see that as quite a benefit as it were, right? And of course, I think the complementary skill as well, you can't take that away. You build faster. I knew how much time it took me when I outsourced engineering, and how much, I mean, as I just mentioned to you, it could deliver an MVP in 4 weeks. That is, and I've seen AZ in previous startup and even in BillBoxx today. If we have to deliver a feature tomorrow as we speak, all he needs to do is keep engineering team awake, and we would have it ready by tomorrow morning, right? And you don't have that luxury of, speed or expediting things when you actually have an outsourced service, or you don't have a co-founder that has your technical activity under lockdown, as it were. So for me, I think those are some of the two things I would touch on: the shared value and then the benefits of, the competency and the capacity that comes with, having somebody that complements you, particularly in areas you might not have, direct competencies in.
Well done. Thank you so much for that. Thank you for that. Yes, so I'll be directing this question again to
I thought
AZ.
Adrian wanted to mention. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I thought Adrian
Yes,
wanted to
so
talk about this. Yes.
I would say communicate genuinely. don't leave things to assumptions. The biggest learning that we took out from Fix It 45 was if the other two expatriates had communicate as they start to get the feeling they get, maybe we would have salvaged it, but they were making a lot of assumptions and there was no communication. So it started to build and could lead to grudges. Now, another thing that I would say that you need to do, even after finding a co-founder, is genuinely love them, like got their back. So it means because truthfully you got their back, you can actually tell them or give them negative feedback without hurting their ego. And please never give a negative remark where anybody is there. It just has to be both of you, no,
Yeah.
regardless of who it is. Uh, you need to have those hard conversations. So people would say that myself and Justus, we never have issues. Everything is smooth. If my idea is A, Justus is saying A. If Justus is saying Y, I'm saying Y. They don't know that we argue more than we are aligned. But then it's always closed doors. And we don't leave things to assumptions. If there's anything that is flagged off, we have the conversations immediately. So these things actually keep us going. It is extremely shocking to a lot of people to realize that we left an engagement at the same time. Like, this was how much of got your back thing that we're doing. At the time, I was doing consulting, so it wasn't a problem. I was off the engagement maybe months before we decided. The moment Justus was like, okay, I'm off, then we're out. But I had to wait for him. And there was no reason for me to wait other than I got his back. I trust him and he trusts me too. So this has to be genuine and you can't fake it. So if for any reason you find yourself in an engagement or a relationship with a co-founder that you don't genuinely like, you need to build it intentionally. Because again, if you don't genuinely like the person that you want to build success with, man, it's on you. So you just have to build it. And that's the things that I've learned over the years.
Yeah. Ronke, before you do that, this is really this calls for a moment of reflection, you know. Don't you think so? I mean, building with people that you genuinely like, you know. I've met a lot of like my friends, my mentors who are just pushing life through, you know, co-founders that they don't just enjoy building with. It's either I don't know if Antoinette is here. I would have dragged her on this. She got into Antler, and this is like a story I don't know if she wants me to share, but I will share the story. She got into Antler. Antler matched her with another super great Indian guy that is ex-Meta, ex-Amazon. But the two of them could not just have a conversation. The guy talks a lot, and Antoinette also has a lot to also say. So it's like two different a lot meeting each other, and it was Tom. And I was like the boyfriend that Antoinette will come and rant on. And like, I don't know what I'm doing. This guy needs to Indian people. I'm like, no, no, no. Indian people are like Nigerians too. Like, you know. So that what they just said is like very, very interesting. You know, building with people that you just like and being very honest and open when it comes to having conversation. Like if you don't like the job, just leave and let those that love it do it. It's just that easy, you know. And that's one of the things I do personally. I'm litmusing that as a test. Like if I have a feeling that this employee doesn't love this thing, no matter how great the person is, I just don't feel you. I'm now struggling to feel you, but it's like trying to be back in a broken relationship. It's hard, you know. But I really love what the both of them just shared. That's quite very instructive. Thank you so much. Ronke, over to you.
Thank you, Justus. Thank you, Zed. Thank you, Itayo. All right, so with everything said, it's bring me to a question. So if you're looking at with everything we've been saying, like what's that red flag that you should be looking out for to work out or not to even engage at all in a co-founder relationship? What's that red flag? Justus, would you go?
Yeah, I mean, I could. So, I think red flag number one would be, um, so I think one, because again, we're talking about ventures here, right? Be clear about each other's competencies, right? And be sure there is overlap is allowed, but it must be complementary, right? Right? You don't want a situation where um, you both are drivers and there's nobody that will be co-pilot, right?
Yeah.
And it's okay, the co-pilot can, drive as well, right? Because if that's the whole idea, right? Someone who could as well do. But again, understand who the co-pilot is and who the actual, pilot is or what have you, right? And I mean, I think that's where definition of roles actually do come in. And I recall, for instance, AZ being when I met AZ, like I told you, he's a CEO. He was a CEO and AZ happened to have both technical skill and also commercial skill. And like he told you, he doesn't like to sell, even though he can sell, right? So already, I mean, if we're two people that just would love to sell and nobody wants to build the tech infrastructure, right? I think that's somewhat a red flag as it were. And I think I mean, again, maybe I could highlight this as one of our failures, right? And I wouldn't actually call it a failure, but there was a startup that failed to start, right? And this time around, we had a third force, right? And the red flag eventually that came very clear when we are trying to start that particular venture was trust, right? Um, it was someone who had worked with us, and we thought, oh, great guy, has energy. I mean, he was even going to be the CEO. I was transitioning out of CEO and happy to go into operations. AZ was going to remain on the tech side of things, right? But this third force necessarily wasn't as trusting as we were. I think we have built trust over time, but we realized he didn't have as much comfort doing certain things you know, with us and was doing some things behind us, right? And I think that lack of trust eventually didn't make that startup, launch. Even despite the fact that AZ had built the tech, had put the operational infrastructure in place and processes. He was supposed to be the number one man. And I think one of the things I mean, this third party started talking about was how he was the most important person in the team, right? And I think that's also a red flag when you actually are in a co-founder relationship that someone feels better or more important than the other. I mean, BillBoxx today, AZ and I are actually on the same level. We own equal stakes, right? So it's not like Justus is. I mean, you won't come to BillBoxx and say, "Oh, you want to see the number one man." I don't think there's a number one man, right? Maybe there are number one men, right? And that would be AZ and I, right? So I mean, I think red flag number one is someone who one not ready, not willing to trust because again, some people have trust issues, and if you can't trust, there's no point building together, right? And then anybody who sort of comes feeling like they are a bigger personality in this whole relationship, I think, and there are ways you can sense it, right? Someone saying, "Oh, it's me they want to talk to, it's me that should do this," and I'm the one that I'm the reason why they want to invest. I mean, those are some red flags you could pick out very quickly because again, you don't want to be in a co-founder relationship where you are more like you are less of whoever else you think you're in partnership with. I think those are like the two I would sort of touch on, but I'm sure Zed might have some other ones to add to that.
No, I was just going to again state that a red flag is when you have the me guy on your team. So it is, oh, I am. I think this should be a learning everybody should pick. You should use more of we are doing this than I am doing this. It's not going to be a one-man thing. So it's something that once I see that we have a conversation and you're saying, oh, I am this, I am that, I've done this, I've done that. And it is like a conversation where it's an organization and it is, oh, I raised the money. Oh, I sold. Oh, I built the tech. Oh, I conceived the idea. Like, trust me, a lot of people don't know that Justus actually conceived the idea of BillBoxx. A lot of people think it's an AZ, or maybe we sat down somewhere. And trust me, it doesn't happen that way. You don't sit down to be dedicated. Oh, today we'll find an idea. It doesn't just happen that day. Somebody gets the eureka moment, but then one is you are seeing a person who is the me guy. I don't know. I want to throw shades. Maybe I'll get some lashes here. So if you look at, for football fans, if you see a Ronaldo and you see a Messi, you know the me guy, you know the we guy. I won't say more than that. So it's a red flag. You can always use it to. No offense to fans of any of the ones that you've got in the shade, but again, just that's a red flag. It should be a collective thing.
Aderonke, I wanted to add one more thing. Something actually also happened to us. We actually lost out on an investment at some point because
Okay.
the lead investor was going to finalize the investment decision with me. And I said, no, I need to finalize my co-founder. And it was as though if you are not making a decision right here and here, I mean, it might be all over. And I was like, no, it's not possible. I can't make that. Even though I know AZ would be, I think it was going to be, we're going to actually ask for a review of the investment proposal, though. But I didn't need to actually speak to Z to know what AZ's position would be. But I wanted the investor to understand the fact that I don't cut all the shots here. It's not a Justus thing. If my co-founder isn't aligned, we are not aligned. And yeah, I mean, we eventually lost that investment, but we feel it was good that we did anyways.
Yeah.
Great, 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 great. This
I
is
just,
really
okay, I just want to double
interesting.
click. Sorry, okay. I just want to double click a few things that I want to, heavily spotlight so that we all don't ever forget that. Is that sometimes you're coming from being the me guy all your life, because there are actually me guys who have done me all their lives. So, for example, you were head boy when you were in school, and the school gave you the opportunity to be authoritarian. You know, you were when they were you in the university, you were SUG president. Then you left, you built a company on your own for like 5 years, and then you want to go build a startup with a co-founder. One thing you want to always check every time is, am I being me guy right now, or am I sharing wealth? That is a very hard thing. And if you have some resources, I would say, you know what, get yourself a therapist, you know, get yourself a therapist, or get yourself a friend that can help you, or a coach that can help you move from being a me guy to being a horse guy, because it's a very hard thing. It's not something that sometimes all the me guys have built great companies and they've made decisions alone. Decisions alone, being alone in the boardroom, everyone is gone, and then you're thinking to yourself as a me guy, I need to make this decision, and then you make the decision and then it works. So you've made multiple me person decision that has worked. And that's where your competence is. But now you're going into a partnership with someone to build, you would literally be running mad waiting for someone, because that's not your capability. So you want to get someone to really coach you, a friend, a mentor, a therapist, a coach, to help you transition from that phase, because it's a very hard one. And I'm very excited that both of them talked about these points today. Okay, this
Yes.
is becoming a very interesting conversation.
Sorry, I think I lost Itayo.
And
Ronke,
I
can I?
think his network. You want to
Yeah,
add something,
yeah, I just
Justus?
wanted to add something. I mean, so
Okay.
mind you, the co-founder arrangement doesn't necessarily underplay solo founders, right? I mean, Ita just mentioned as well, we have great solo founders, right? And I think one is not better than the other. And I think for us, right, today, it's all speaking about, having a co-founder. And Eze can speak to how he actually did co-found. In fact, the startup, well, I won't call it a startup, but an SME that AZ founded alone is still alive as we speak, right? So, in all fairness, there are times when solo founder is what does it, And there are times where co-founder does it right better. And again, it's a function of, I mean, you've had this saying that says if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go with people. But I think we've seen solo founders that have actually gone fast and far, right? Even alone, right? And the example is Calendly. I mean, Tokwe built it all by himself as it were, right? As a solo founder. I mean, the example is all over the place as it were, right? So again, you might be one that is more optimized to go alone, right? Like you just might be better optimized to go with someone else. But I don't think one is necessarily better than the other. They just are different models of building.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much. That was really, really insightful. So looking at this, like the red flags, dogs, everything. So how do you actually handle disagreements or differences in vision when they arise? How do you handle disagreement? Because when we learn how you handle yours, I believe others on the call will also learn from how you do things. So how do you handle disagreements, differences in your vision when they arise? So I want AZ to actually answer the question
AZ
first.
will round it up because AZ is the one that will speak somewhat to this. Well, when
Anyway,
AZ
know your
calls me that,
co-founder better. So
no,
okay.
when AZ calls and says, when AZ says we need to see, you know that there is frank talk to be done, right? So he said so we can go for months and not see, right? I mean, we will
Okay.
run a full remote team, right? But when AZ gets in his car to want to sit down and see, there's something. I mean, for those of you who are married, right? I'm sure you can also, when your wife says we need to talk, then there is something to talk about, right? But I think yes, I mean we oftentimes just have that frank conversation. And I think conversations, taking responsibility for what is yours, oftentimes helps to it's not time, I mean, blame game or what have you, right? And so basically, yes, communication, open communication between you two. And if there are three of you, open communication, and then, taking responsibility out of those conversations that would help reach a resolution always, goes a long way. But yes, I would allow AZ to speak some more to that.
Okay, AZ, let's have you.
So again, do it alone. Like it just has to be two of you. You cannot have a third party. Even your spouse cannot be there. So you can have it hot. And if you'd also recall that I'm big on when you genuinely love the person you work with, so you can easily get your feedback across without using hurtful words, and it will still communicate exactly what you want to. So now, the reason it is very easy for us to resolve disagreements in opinions around our vision is we understand something first. Both of us want the same thing. And what is that thing? Success. So, and we have a clear vision that, oh, this is where we are going. Most times there's a disagreement. The two opinions are kind of valid. In short, we can switch the table and we can see reasons why the other person is bringing his own opinion. So sometimes you might have to compromise. Now, it is just like you are in marriage too. It's not everything that goes your way. But as long as you can see sense in the other person's way, and it's a case of, okay, I think we should do this first. I think we should do this first. Most of the times, we still will do the same thing that both of us are bringing to the table. But it's a case of which should we prioritize. So when we have it alone, there are no egos, there's no winner, there's no loser. It is very easy for one of us to compromise. And just to buttress, it is better when it is physical. Don't do text. It can be misread. So if I would drive to say, JT, let's see. Yes, we have to see. And it's always truthful.
Hi, Aderonke.
Hi, is that done talking
I
or
think
did
it's
you?
that, right?
Yeah, man of few words. Sharp, sharp.
That's good. Well done. Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Don't do tests. Don't do tests because tests can actually be very misleading. That's really correct. That's really correct. physically speak about it. Okay, so
Sorry, okay. Sorry. And one of the
okay,
things that I also learned from one, or what they have also shared, is that they had moments of experimenting, you know. They had moments of experimenting with their relationship, you know. And I always say that we are human beings. So the best of us come when we are doing things, when we're being. So I love the fact that, Justus had his own thing. He was the CEO of his own company. EZ has his own company. He was CEO of his own company. They both had like great lives, but the two of them came together on a platform that gave them the opportunity to actually experiment and do things. And that's one of
yeah.
the things that we're going to be doing with our co-founder program. We will design, I'll probably share it tomorrow. We'll design like a 3 weeks or 4 weeks, a 3 week or 4 week program that we can do together to get us to do a few things so that you can see this person, see the other person, and see, hey, can we all work together? You can discover other people in that process. Like, this guy has got this capacity that I don't have. We'll design like a 3 week thing that we can do together to help us to gel with other people. And maybe that will give us the opportunity to find potential, co-founders. But this is fantastic. It's fantastic. Okay, you're doing a very good job. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Tel, for the compliment. Thank you. All
Sorry,
right. So,
sorry, I think something is didn't remember to also mention is,
okay.
and don't take those moments or those issues personal. They are actually not personal. They are business concerns. So, but the moment you
Yes.
start personalizing what is actually premised on business, it begins to take a deeper dimension than it should, right? And I think that's some of the things that has always helped us. We actually separated such issues from personal, interest, as it were, right? This is all in the interest of the business. And I think at times when it starts getting heated, we are reminded that, guy, I'm doing this because I want us to stay longer in business. I want our customers to be happier. I mean, it's just all about business. It's nothing personal. And I think that's always very important because the moment you start making business concerns quite of personal interest, it begins to, you begin to cross certain lines that you shouldn't. Yeah. I just thought to mention that.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for that. So let me ask one interesting question because we're talking about settling, how do you settle differences and stuff like that. So has there been any points? I know it's a very, should I say, deep question, but not too deep. Has there been any point whereby you guys had to part ways? What did you learn from the experience? Has there been any point before I even know what you learned from the experience? Has there been any point? Is
Maybe
there, why
maybe
are you
you guys
laughing?
didn't also part maybe, but you were almost tempted to like, you know what, we're just gonna get divorced. Uh,
So I think the unfortunate thing, well, maybe not unfortunate, but I chose to use that word is, I think AZ and I's relationship has now gone beyond both of us. That if I say I no longer want to see AZ, right, in the context of what we do, my wife will question me. And my wife will almost say I'm the person who is at fault, right? So I think our relationship has grown beyond us. I mean, it's not some kind of relationship that we can just decide to part ways now. We would have to settle a whole lot of other things before we could part ways. And I said at some point, yes, there was a break in us working together. But I think even despite the fact that we're not working together for like, I think through the pandemic or what have you, we somewhat were still very much in touch, right? So, and I think that's actually been how we've been ever since. Even those that built I mean, previous startups with us, we have groups, right? I remember the last time when in Europe we had too many people to visit because a lot of guys that worked with us are jackpot, right? And these are people that have already become part of us, right? And those are some of the people that if we must part ways, we need to call a village to make that parting possible. But yeah, but so far we've really not had any reason to, we've not had the temptation to, as it were. I think the one that would have made us really probably part ways was the last startup we eventually left together. there was going to be a move to sort of divide and rule at some point where, they wanted to separate us where we needed to take sides, but we actually, we stood together, we stood through it all together, even though, yes, it might not have been easy. So, but I don't know, has there been any temptation to part with my annoying self?
The question is funny. It has never been an option. When the option is not on the table, it's not even a thing to consider. And we've never gotten to the point where we've never had heated arguments. Like, why we arguing? Like, why? It's about business. So it's not an option. I don't think it has crossed any of our minds to say we want to take a break. And like I was saying earlier today to a friend, maturity is that scenario or that case where you do not speak with someone for a year and you come back and it's like you never left. So even while I've done stuff, it's done stuff, when we needed to come back, it's like we never left. So we have been fortunate not to get to that point, and I hope and I strongly believe that we would never get to that point.
Okay. And I hope you never get to that
You know
point.
what I find very interesting about this conversation is the model the two of them have built is quite very traditional. It's built on traditional principles, and I'm not shading Gen Zs, but not the Gen Z's principle. The fact that this relationship is so rooted in the infrastructure that is supplying its strength. It's not an isolated relationship. The both of them know, their family members. So it's beyond just the superficial me and you. The relationship these days are built like on me and you alone. We don't want any other person to be a part of it. So when that relationship is crashing, there are no people around it to strengthen it, And that's one of the things I love about this conversation that we're having. And that's a lesson to myself. If I'm building a startup with someone, I want to intentionally build in the infrastructure that will strengthen that relationship. And one of it is bringing in families into our relationship, make so that when I feel like there's someone that is accountability, partner to me and can like, hey, you're wrong. And be at least a third high. And I love it. This is really deep. Thank you so much, Justus and AZ for sharing. This is very, very interesting.
Thanks, bro.
Thank you. So we're actually rounding up, but I have like two questions for you so that because and these questions are very imperative. So we've been talking about this. So I'll just ask this very straight question. Looking at it, you guys have gone beyond just partnership, professional relationship from business. You've gone way beyond that. You are now friends. You are now like family friends. So how do you presently balance friendship, professional respect, and business priorities as co-founders? And this is more like advising other people that might want to make their friend their co-founder. How do you balance this three aspects?
So, sorry, I hear you mention friendship, professional, and what's the last one?
Professional respect, and of course, business priorities.
Well, that's an interesting one. Is that we probably need to revisit that because it's so blur. I think we're perhaps the most unserious founders, as it were. Although, yeah, I mean, we taking VC funds, there's the need to actually sort of structure up some more. So interestingly, I came from a very regimented, um, background, right? Working in a multinational, we had processes, right? And it was fun at the time when I was in it, but after I came out of it, I realized it stifled innovation to an extent, right? So for that reason, when I had a chance to come into the startup space, I let down. In fact, the first SME I built it as though I was running a multinational. We had all sort of policies. I mean, I'm talking about a startup of about probably 10 persons, but I was running it like, oh, I was coming from this Fortune 500 company. We had policies, we had HSC, we had, I just saw I was, taking the fun out of the journey, as it were, right? But for us, right, I think, yes, when it's time to work, we get to work. And I think one of the things that we do essentially is to make sure everything we do is by objectives, right? What are we looking to achieve? I mean, if I typically, so I'll give you an example, for instance. I oftentimes would make a demand on engineering through AZ to say we need this feature. AZ will not just go and build the feature. Um, I must present a business case why a feature needs to be built because again, there's engineering manpower that will be, deployed in the cost of this. Yeah, I need to make a business case for that, and I need to make commitments. So I remember when we are building one very sensitive feature, I mean, not a sensitive feature, but one that actually was going to take AZ out of what they were doing at the time. I was like, this is urgent. This will make us drive the next milestone. I had to make a commitment to say, and this, I mean, it's a B2B platform we're building here that I was going to get, and it was actually a feature for our partners. At the time, we had just two partners. And Israel was like, there was no point. Is there really a reason why we can't just keep doing the semi-manual process with these partners? And I was like, no, the scale we are trying to get this, and the kind of partners we wanted to attract, we needed to build this feature. Of course, there was Israel as usual. I needed to make a commitment to say, this feature is going to drive this much commercial value, and I was going to get this many partners on board, right? And I think we revisited that conversation some days back to show that, see, yes, I delivered on this, and because so that was a situation where we're not just about we didn't just go about the fact that, oh, AZ, please build this for us, and we took out the professional context out of it, or the business context out of it. And that's always been the case, right? Where we always make a business case for whatever we needed to do today in BillBoxx. And initially, I remember when we initially even started, and I told you, right? I think AZ mentioned my first pitch deck was actually presented to AZ, not an investor, not anybody else, because in as much as we're friends. I mean, and you could imagine how funny it could be where anytime imagine one of your very close friends, you want to share a business idea, and you actually are presenting a pitch deck as though you are presenting to an investor. That was actually how I actually got AZ convinced about BillBoxx. And the reason why I needed to even do that, AZ, like I'd always told you guys, is AZ is never free. He has a studio that always has projects all year round. And here he has started building something. Even when he was going to start, he discussed it with me. It was a scary project. It's called Scandium, test automation. We had nothing like that on the continent, arguably, I guess. I mean, it's a solution that is built out of Europe, out of the US, and Israel was going to pull it off. Even at the time when he wanted to start it, he was not sure he could, but he wanted to test his capability. So I knew he had a passion project at hand. So I was like, if I must actually get a bit of AZ on this, then I must go with something very compelling. So I developed this pitch deck. I booked an appointment with AZ, drove all the way to wherever the venue he gave me, and I made a presentation to him. And I knew one thing for sure, that if I could convince AZ, I could convince anybody else, because AZ is the realist, right? I'm the very optimistic guy. And that's one of the things that has helped our relationship. So we oftentimes, move with cautious optimism. I'm the one that we just want to go, go, go. I'm the one that sees everything that can go right. AZ sees everything that could go wrong. And then we sort of balance our motion that way. So, so I could have taken AZ for granted to say as a friend, why should I go through the motion of making a presentation? But you see, that singular move also made AZ take me more seriously. And I was also hell bent on getting a yes, because at the time when I had conceived the idea of BillBoxx, I had only one option as to who was going to build with me, and it was AZ. If AZ had said no, I probably would have changed course, or probably wouldn't have even launched, because again, I must give credit to the fact that we eventually launched because it was AZ and I that built it. And I think it was just shortly after AZ said yes, AZ delivered, AZ and one engineer at the time delivered our MVP, which got us into Nuskin Accelerator. Nuskin only took us because of the team. They saw the team chemistry because we did a joint interview. They were just like, no, these guys were just fantastic. We had pedigree to ourselves. We had built, some things prior to then. And of course, we're also building something of value. And here we're guys on the other side of the world in Sweden, We had not made, we were pre-revenue at the time. We thought we needed to have made no pre-revenue, and they took us serious on the premise that, oh, these two guys actually can take on the world. And so I think I've said a lot. I'll leave it there, but definitely there needs to be that balance of friendship, business, and professionalism.
So maybe like a liner to just wrap it quickly.
Yeah,
We are always
exactly.
working. We are always working. So even if we have a gist, we are working in the gist. After the gist, there's something about work. In short, there was a time that we created a WhatsApp group just for both of us so that we can have business related conversation different from personal. Trust me, if I need to search for something, I'll check the WhatsApp group. It's probably not there. I'll come to our personal. That's where it is. So it is hard for us, like you said. Maybe we need to also grow into that where we can bring proper structures into it. But for us, we're always working. And when we're even gisting, somehow, JT will just remember one partner that he's talking to that will excite me. JT will just say, oh, there's this. And then that's how we start. In short, we enjoy the work that somehow the work-related gist is even sweeter than the personal gist. So it's blurry for us, actually. We'll figure it out.
Okay. Someone said I need an AZ in my life. I also need an AZ in my life. Strict AZ.
Alamba.
And I
All
mean,
right.
well, if you get an AZ in your life, you're good to do. So what we joke about is AZ means everything A to Z. I think AZ got you covered.
Okay.
Although his
AZ.
name is Abdulazeez, though, so the AZ is Abdulazeez for short. But we joke about A to Z. AZ is there.
Well done, guys. Well done. All right. So I said it for attendees, if you have questions, you can just drop in the chat box so that I could relate it to the guests. So if you have questions, please don't hesitate, drop it in the chat box. We're rounding up very soon. Okay, so let me just let me round up with this with you. And I'll be asking, so what advice would you give to those looking to like be co-founders with somebody? What advice would you give?
I think I'll give my shortest answer yet. And it might sound a little cliche because probably something you've had, when being said along the lines of marriage, right? I think don't necessarily look for a right co-founder. Be one, be a right co-founder, and I think that would have been half solved in terms of the pursuit or the search, as it were, right? Be that right co-founder. I think the way they used to say it, be who you want to marry to, right? Can you marry yourself? Would you date you, right? And so the question also is, are you the kind of co-founder you're actually also looking for, right? And if you are, then I think you're halfway there, and then of course the other piece would come together.
Okay, but just us, in the course of the session, we're talking about get someone complimentary. So if you're getting someone complimentary, I don't think it's necessarily someone like you, right?
No. So again, I don't think I necessarily am speaking about duplicity here or duplication as it were, right? But I'm just saying the fact that no. So don't forget, complementary skills are there. I think I spoke more on the level of attitude. I mean, you remember we talked about trust,
Yeah.
right? Would you trust you? If you won't trust you, why would you expect someone else to trust you? And trust is a great ingredient in it. Of course, yes, the complementary skill, you don't need another person exactly like you, right? So I think I spoke more on the attitudinal level, and then, of course, on the competency level as well, it has to be complementary. You don't need another you. Another you is not necessarily who you need as it were.
Okay. So AZ, what advice would you give to the first time founder struggling to find a solid co-founder match? What advice would you give?
First is if you're looking for a co-founder, first I pity you because it's tough and it's not really an intentional time-bound activity to say this week I'm going to get my co-founder. I pity people that have not found that partner, the right partner. However, don't rush it. Don't rush into it. So when I see acceleration programs that they just marry people together to do this to get it works, but it is always better when you guys start to work without the mindset of, oh, guy, let's sign an agreement today. We're going to be our co-founder. Nah, just start to work. You would know when you become co-founders. So, oh, we have this idea. Oh, you can build the tech, or I can build the business. Let's get started. Yes, again, this is not to say you should not have clear-cut agreements, but don't rush it. Don't rush it. Don't make it like, oh, this acceleration program has given me 1 month or 1 week to get my co-founder, like a milestone that is time bound. No, most times it doesn't work. You can get lucky, it can be exception, but start with friendship. Let's build together. Do we enjoy working together? Can we speak together in the middle of the night? Again, yeah, I know it's the old school thing. Everyone wants work-life balance now. But are you compatible? Don't force it. It is just like a relationship that you want to get to marriage, not the other side. You can always define that. So if you really want to get into marrying someone, you don't go on day one to go to registry and go and get married. No, you court. Yes, you can make your intentions clear that I am here for a real deal, but then have some moments with the person. Be sure you like the person. It will make your life easier. So because I like Justus, it is easy for him to get his way on certain things. He can play the emotional card. But if I don't like you, oh God, we would hustle. Because he likes me too, he can always reason from my own standpoint. Most times we don't have all those kind of arguments that would not lead anywhere because we clearly see the reason the other person is bringing or whatever opinion they have. So don't rush it. Know that it is something that life would bring to your way. Don't make it a do or die thing. It is okay to keep building solo until you meet that person.
Yeah,
That would be my advice.
that's very fantastic. And
That's
again, I
fantastic.
would say, as we're rounding up, okay, I want to hijack this from you. Apologies, because it's supposed to be your day, not mine. But the conversation is so interesting. I love what they're
Yeah.
sharing because I find it very interesting because the dynamics of this relationship is rooted on very traditional principles. Traditional principles of don't go into being a friend with a lady because you want to just sleep with her. Build the relationship, court, have the conversation, work together. What I see these days is like, hey, we're looking for a co-founder. Can we sign an MOU? In fact, before the conversation even starts, they're already signing NDA. So there's no even trust in the first place. I have this idea. This idea came from heaven. I'm looking for a co-founder. And then the potential guidance says, oh, let's talk about it. Like, oh, that's my idea. I need to make sure that it is protected. Can I send you an NDA? I'm like, you're
Let me shock you, right? We didn't even know we didn't have a co-founder agreement until we were raising our seed round. I mean, we are taking investment from some that didn't ask for it. So we were disappointed in ourselves to know we didn't have a document as basic as that. But it just showed you how we were not quite as, I mean, we knew we had each other's back. And you're right, but even at that, do what needs to be done, right?
yeah.
But trust would always, I mean, a lawyer would once told me that an agreement is just a piece of paper. Who would default, right? And that in the long run is about the person, right?
Yeah.
Okay, okay, back to you. I think Oluseye's hand is up.
All right. So Olusheye is raising his hand. I think he has a question. So Olusheye, go ahead
Yeah,
with your question.
I just want to ask Justus. Yeah, he said there wasn't a agreement even when the raise like precede. So was it like there was just salary structures during this period?
No, so So we honestly had contracts. I think from the get-go, we had contracts in place. Everybody, I mean, I think that particular document was just what was missing, which was very funny. And I was like, even for us, we were disappointed to realize that, oh, we missed out on a document, perhaps as serious as that, right? But why I mentioned that was the fact that we just knew, I mean, nothing necessarily was going to go wrong between us. A co-founder agreement, I mean, founders agreement, we had it in principle, but we didn't necessarily had captured it on paper at the time. Of course, when the investor asked for it, we quickly had to put something together, backdated it, because again, like I said, in principle, we had that agreement all along. But we are not very keen on the paperwork because again, I mean, some of the co-founder troubles that you hear about, the co-founders fight, there are founders agreements in place, but they still go their separate ways. So it tells you it's more than just that piece of paper. There's more to it than just, putting pen to paper. And that's just what I wanted to emphasize with that illustration.
Yeah, please, like WWE, don't try this at home. It is okay. Please do all of the agreements, please. In that regard, we might just be the exception. You should have all of the agreements, but know that it should be on the premise of trust. Like you want to work with yourself. It's not about the print and the signatures. So please.
Interesting. What I also want to mention is, as we're rounding up, this is just one of the 5 different series. Remember, this is like series A, and then we're going to have, so we'll call this series the love series. It's so built on love and trust. I don't know if you see the way Justus respects AZ a lot. The that's one of the things I am learning as I'm getting out of this conversation, that hey, Itayo, even those who are not co-founders, those who are employees, give them their accolades, give them their respect, celebrate them. You hear the way is Justice continues to say, oh, AZ is A to Z. AZ can ship products in this. AZ is so good. AZ is so that. That is a relationship that is built on someone who is intentional about sharing respect in a sharing economy, leveraging what is called the sharing model to share respect. I think someone needs to write a thesis on sharing respect in the sharing economy. Because in this generation, it's always about me. I am this, I am that. You want to be the almighty in the room. But this time, AZ is giving back that, Justus is giving back that accolades to AZ. And that's one of the lessons that I also learned. It's been a very beautiful evening. This is the love series of the co-founder sessions. Yes, the love series, and I love this part. Thank you, AZ, for coming. Thank you, Justus, for coming. And Ronke, thank you for doing this. Ronke broke. Okay, you've chosen to make it love then. Ronke broke my principle, which is like I'm a very, very preparatory person. I want to prepare a session before a session starts. But Ronke broke that principle because I trust her so much. She's a very fantastic host. She knows how to do a thing, and thank you again, Ronke. By the way, Ronke is in sales, one of the best salespeople you would ever know. Very, very hard dogged, going on, winning. And I admire the work that she is doing and work that we're going to do so much together, so much will be done together. Again, Justus, beautiful evening. Thank you for coming. AZ, beautiful evening. Thank you for coming. And to the velocities that are on this call, thank you guys for joining. Let's keep building together. We discover ourselves in building. Enjoy your evening. Watch out for the next series. Have a beautiful night. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Everyone.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Good night.